So this is Honor Phillips, and I'm here with Jonathan Fink. We are in Bucha right now in the suburbs of Kyiv, and at the start of the full-scale invasion, this was one of the first places that the Russians really made their mark as being remarkably cruel and callous. Bucha and Irpin right next to each other. Here in Bucha, more than 450 people civilians were callously killed and murdered throughout the city. Some had their hands duct taped and they were frog walked, shot in the back of the head. Others were just shot in the street as they were going about their life. What happened here in Bucha has been heard all around the world. You can see the monument behind us here to the hundreds of Ukrainian civilians who were murdered. There were mass graves where they were piled very near us right here. And what took place in Bucha is a continual reminder to the Ukrainian people as to why they are fighting and to who they are fighting. What happened here in Bucha was not a one-off, but it was the foreshadowing of the way the Russian army and the Russian Federation would go on to prosecute this war, not only here in central Ukraine, but throughout Ukraine, everywhere they were occupied. There was torture, there was systematic and mass rape, and of course there was brutal murder and execution of people going about their everyday lives, just living normally in their own free country until February 24, 2022, when the Russian army rolled over the Ukrainian border and decided they were going to try to take Ukraine. So it's a very solemn place here in Bucha. The memorial behind us is moving and stirring, but it is a very important reminder of why the Ukrainians are fighting, who they are fighting, and why they must have complete victory and a just peace after this war. So, anything to say?
Yeah, I mean, it's incredibly moving. I've seen photos, I've spoken to people who were here just after the exhumations of the victims began. The reason we know about Bucha is it was liberated. Witnesses and people who lived through it could tell their testimony because they're no longer under Russian occupation. What we don't know is how many other Buchas there are which have been covered up by Russian forces and which, for now at least, their stories won't be told because those people who witnessed them are either gone or living under occupation. So this is not a bug. This is a feature. A genocide, rape, summary execution, extraordinary randomness, violence, and death, with some surviving, some not, some traumatized, rapes and surviving, and some who just by sheer fluke turned left and not right in the street, or left a building a few seconds earlier, a few seconds later, and they'd have ended up shot or executed. It just brings back the absolute sort of evil capriciousness that Russian occupation brings. So anyone that talks about sort of peace or ceding territory to Russians, or somehow talking about the fact that if people speak Russian, then that's normal and natural for them to live under Russian occupation, there's nothing normal, comfortable, natural about it. It's an extreme form of sort of gulag with Stalinist terror. Ukraine needs to free its people, needs to free its territories from what is an unimaginable horror.
And as we've heard many times, and as has been reported extensively, regardless of what language you speak, whether it's Russian or Ukrainian, allegiance to this idea of Ukrainian identity often means that you are persecuted, tortured, or killed. We saw that here in Bucha, in Kherson, and as Jonathan just said, for the 3+ million Ukrainians under occupation right now, we can only imagine what they're facing at this moment. And they are not forgotten, and they will be returned to freedom and liberated, hopefully soon, from a brutal occupation force under the Russian Federation. Thank you, Jonathan.
Thank you.